Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us for today's LinkedIn Live entitled Power, Data, and Influence, How Women Can Lead in the Age of AI. My name is Marisol Dicion, and I am the Managing Director at Women of Influence Plus. Today, we are joined by Bhuva Shakti, who is the Chief Ethics and Culture Officer at Women in AI and founder of WalletMax. Good morning, Bhuva. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Wilson. Good morning, everyone.
So before we get started, a little bit of housekeeping to our valued audience members. Please do share your questions in the comments section. Our team member, Rachel, will be monitoring and we'll get to as many of your questions as we can today. So Bhuva, to kick things off, I want to frame our discussion and why it matters. AI has created a massive power shift that we can all agree on. It's making decisions that shape careers, capital, and influence. But the problem is AI learns from the past, and that past is our past, and it's a biased one. Those biases in the world of AI don't just continue, they scale. So with that, Bhuva, how do you define the power AI holds today? And what's at stake for women if we don't engage in shaping it?
Sure. Thanks, Marisol, for getting started with this. It's not about considering AI as just another kind of technology or wave of technology. It's actually shifting the power, if not in the right direction. It also decides, as an example, let's say it decides who gets hired, who gets funded, who has financial access to basic things in life. And also, it also becomes a voice in decision making and leadership. So, if we are not shaping these systems, then we, women, and other underrepresented communities are at risk to be coded out of the future. So we have to really act now. So I've been in a 3-decade career across investment banking, venture capital, AI governance, and today I help a lot of responsible technology startups. In all this transition through the decades, I've seen that power literally follows money, and money literally follows data. Today, data is considered the gold standard. But if we think AI is power, data is influence. And this data has been trained on historical patterns that were never built for women or diverse leaders. So it is very inherent that these old barriers continue to reinforce themselves, but now at a bigger scale and very faster also. So we have a window of opportunity where we can redesign the system today. We can see how it is shaping, who benefits from it, and things of that sort. So I come from Wall Street in New York City. As an example, I can say some of the hiring systems that are trained on historic data that are built on AI, they reflect past hiring trends, which means they're going to favor more male candidates or non-diverse candidates. It may not be as diverse. So if we don't intervene today, then we risk a system that's going to be built for us without including us as we get into future, which is not too far away.
Bhuva, just a quick follow-up question on that. What does intervention today actually look like? So, and what parts of intervention are happening and what parts are we lagging behind on collectively?
Yeah, so to have an intervention, you need not be an AI scientist or a data scientist. It's for regular people to be part of the system. As an example, data is us, our own history, our own data, but it also has a lot of bias. What we should be doing in terms of intervening is intervene in terms of how you see the system, how you share your data, what you share, and also enforce things in your consumer behavior. You as a client, you as an employee, you as a, let's say, a citizen of the country, to influence or voice your concerns or decisions, right? So couple of areas where I see real big challenges are, one is financial access, since I come from the financial sector, but it is a big challenge for women to get credit approval. Even though there is some improvement today, it has a lot of biased data from the past. And another sector is medical care. A lot of medical research has been done on data that does not include diverse women voices, so which means the treatments or the medications are not directly geared towards our own health problems. So those are two areas, and it has nothing to do with AI, but it's influencing decisions and is making an impact positively or negatively in our daily lives, I'd say.
Thank you, Buva. I want to go back to something that we both mentioned, and that is that bias in AI doesn't replicate, it scales. Now, can you break that down for us? What are, in your view, the most urgent risks when it comes to AI-driven decision making?
Sure. So one thing I have noticed is I'll probably just detail out a little bit on the credit decisioning data I mentioned, right? So it's nothing fancy. You could be a small business that needs a micro loan, but then women historically did not have number one bank accounts. It took a lot of time to get bank account, and then if they had a bank account, let's say just only few decades back, they needed someone who's a male counterpart to sign or co-sign with them. So which means historically banks have favored men for funding, and the AI models today do not have good financial records for women, which means they are trained on old data that still continue to have unfair decisions. And this is not today's problem. This was decades old problem, but it is continuing to affect women today. And that's what I mean by this continues to scale. And if we don't intervene today in terms of data and AI policies and decision making, even as an outsider or a consumer, we risk being in a system that doesn't help us financially, medically, or in hiring trends and so on and so forth. And the other example I was mentioning on the medical diagnosis also, right? So I go through that every day myself also. And as an example, I've also seen that some of the key symptoms, let's say as an example, a heart attack, could be very different for men versus women. The symptoms could be totally different. The warning signs could be totally different. Sometimes you may miss out that a woman is getting a heart attack because the symptoms were not part of the list of things we should look for when it comes to medical treatment or diagnosis. So that's why it's not about someone in AI technology field, but today we see AI is making decisions on who's getting the money, who's getting medical help. So which means it should be trained on fair and balanced data. Otherwise, we'll continue to build the same future with old mistakes for next several decades. I think that's how the scaling problem affects us continuously and repeatedly.
Oh, that line, Buva, when you say we risk making the same mistakes if we don't intervene now. And that is obviously certainly something we don't want to do. And that those two examples, Buva, are great lead-ins to my next question, because there's a dangerous assumption that AI makes decisions that are more objective, but in reality, it's automating those human biases. And today's apparent favorite phrase of the day is at scale. So we're
Yeah.
seeing this play out in ways that impact women's leadership and financial power. Where specifically do you see this making the biggest impact today?
Yeah. So in my real life, so I transitioned from investment banking into the venture capital space, all along using technology and AI, but also advocating for responsible tech and ethical AI. In today's world, especially pre-pandemic, we saw only less than 2% women receive venture capital funding in terms of startups that are led by women, regardless of the sector or technology. And within that, women of color received much less portion of 2%. And this was before pandemic. But after the pandemic, we would think, due to a lot of systemic things coming out in play, that this 2% would have at least stayed the same or would have increased. But post-pandemic, the trend is much lower. So post-pandemic trend is less than 1% goes to women of color, especially if you're leading a startup that does responsible, ethical impact work, regardless of AI or not. So which means with or without AI, it's already impacting how women can build scalable impact solutions. But we also know that research has proven time and again that women-led startups have comprehensive due diligence. So we inherently do a lot of risk management, a lot of research ahead of presenting something for funding. But then we also additionally make better profits than other counterparts that are male-led, only for the reason we do a lot of pre-work and we have historically taken care of risk management and due diligence. So historically, the data will look like that men are preferred startup founders for investing, whereas the data, real data, shows that today women-led startups make better profits. So that's why I think if AI is helping investors to decide on who to invest in today, this trend is going to only continue and women founders continue to get ignored. And because also, again, coming back to the same point where AI is following old data, old patterns. So there are gaps in data that are not built for women and diversity, which is very important for us to get a full picture. So that's why we lose out on a lot of financial opportunities if control and money doesn't change hands and grow across the ecosystem.
Uva, I don't have a tech background, but there's a question that where the answer might seem obvious. But if the systems are built off of old data, but real data is obviously available, can you help me and others who might have the same question understand why aren't we leveraging the real data? Why aren't we tapping into the real data to help these systems make more informed decisions based on where we're at today?
Correct. So two things. One is real data is available today, but AI typically trains on large sets of data. So we don't have enough real data from today for these models to train. So they are already mixed up with historical data with limited representation from today's real data. To alleviate this challenge, what they tried to do is do synthetic data, in the sense when historic data doesn't have real data and there are gaps and there is limited availability of today's real data, they went with synthetic data generation to fill the gaps of missing diversity and inclusion in historic data. But we went through another challenge there as well. So this is synthetic data started to look more like real data, and people were taking advantage of generating more synthetic data than trying to use it as a stopgap measure to bring up real data from today's world. So I would say people are either going in a direction where they use only historic data or they use too much of synthetic data. And my goal is not to have 100% for women. My goal is to do a shift from 2% funding to 50% funding. So we are not telling, okay, use all data that should be only representing women and diverse communities. We are telling we need a fair and equal shot, which means keep historic data where you see a real need for synthetic data for missing pointers, use that, but definitely continue to collect a lot of real data from today that you can use collectively to make your decision. So we need our male allies, they are key. And we want them to help us to remove old biases, but we are also not trying to stay at 2%. We want to get to our deserved 50%. So I'd say use synthetic data responsibly, but up until only the point where you have real data, and then discontinue that and use real data.
Thank you for that, Buva. We were going to get to this question towards the end, but we have been prompted by our audience members to just get to it. And the big question that we want to answer today is, how do women influence AI, Buva? Point blank. How do we get involved? How do we ensure we're represented?
Yeah, so I think there are three areas I wanted to talk about. Like earlier, I said you don't have to be a coder, you don't have to be an AI expert to be part of the conversation because it's already shaping every industry. But means you don't have to think that you don't have a say in how you shape AI. So I'll say if you're a corporate executive or you're an employee working in a company or organization, private or public, you can ask questions about how AI is making decisions in your company. You can ask for AI transparency. You can bring up pointers like, okay, how is it used? Is it used in hiring decisions? Is it being used in promotions, or is it using AI for customer support? So these are questions, basic questions you can ask your managers if you're in the corporate. But if you're a corporate executive, you are at the top of the ladder and you are trying to enforce that your AI is transparent and your employees know some of these answers before they come to you. Let's say, as an example, you are an investor. So could be a very small angel investor, low check, or could be a venture capital or a private equity, regardless. If you see a startup that's using AI responsibly and is making fairness a priority, and especially if it's being led by women, give them an opportunity to pitch their startup. So today the problem is, it's not that women are having an opportunity to pitch and they are being like, let's say, dismissed for funding. They don't even get to the table to ask for a pitch or a funding opportunity. So if you are someone in that position of decision making, just give an opportunity to hear out a good business idea. So as a leader, you're going to benefit because you don't want to lose out on a good opportunity. But lastly, more importantly, let's say you're a consumer. Please don't assume that AI is neutral. Please don't assume AI is objective. It is only determining the product and services that you can use based on your historic data or some of our past historic data. So like I said, if your company is using a system for AI and with AI to deliver your products and services, check them if they are using some audits. Are they being trained on diverse data? If you're shopping online, AI is deciding what price you see on a product, right? Not everyone sees the same, what ads you are seeing, what products you are getting recommended. So it's important to ask your organization or your, let's say, company that how some of these decisions are being made, and it has nothing to do with you being an AI person. I probably start there.
Thank you for that, Buva. One more question from the audience. What are some strategies being employed by organizations to ensure the data used by the AI is fair and balanced?
Yeah, so I'd say, like, I already gave an example of synthetic data, so that's a start. But also, we have to do the design of a system at the start to be more inclusive, because it's a big problem to find out that there is a challenge later in the product cycle, and then you're trying to scramble to redesign systems. So I'd say, number one, check the data. Number two, use design first approaches so that AI becomes a part of the solution, so that it is helping us to redesign some of the outdated systems rather than continuing to repeat the same pattern. I'd say one of the things even companies like Google and Microsoft are using today is not about auditing the data, not about auditing the AI model, but rather the output of the AI model itself. So they use systems that audit the AI models so that they can detect bias. So these are called AI bias detection tools. So how they work is, they work by scanning your entire set of AI models and see for any hidden biases. And again, these hidden biases are inherent within the organization. So the massive set of biases you feed to the system and ask it to scan for anything that deviates from this, you can ask it to report back to you as part of your audit, and then you can fix those problems. As an example, I was talking about the hiring trend earlier. So let us say if you're a company like Google, Microsoft, or something like that, you can screen your AI system. You can check for past hiring decisions, and you can ask it to flag patterns where certain groups have been repeatedly rejected, like women or underrepresented communities. If they have been repeatedly rejected, if you see a pattern, then ask the audit system to report it back to you so that you can investigate and see if it is a problem with data or your model or both or something else, right? So that's one area where, apart from fixing the data and the model, companies are also trying to use the audit of the decisioning itself so that it doesn't, keep repeating the same things from the past.
Wonderful. Thank you for that, Buva. One question about women getting more involved. So what do you think would actually move the needle in getting more women into the world of AI and machine learning?
Yeah, I mean, it's not only within AI and machine learning, but it's also about mm, any technology. If you're trying to build a responsible technology system, then how do we get more women into the space? Um, it could be as simple as you are a AI or a ML expert or an engineer, then you're directly there at the source of the problem, helping to fix the problem. But if you're not from that, if you're from an industry sector, you can still contribute. In the sense, AI is a technology that is used to solve a business problem. It could be a financial problem, recruiting problem, medical problem. So if you're a financial expert, you are in the position to feed business rules, business data, diverse decisions, eliminating bias, identifying patterns of decisions that have not been as inclusive in the past. You are the business expert who can feed this into the technology team that creates these AI ML models. And you can also be the gatekeeper of verifying this data set. So whether you are a technology person or a non-technology industry business expert, you can still influence the decision. That would be a third angle to this, where you could be from academia, government policy, or a non-profit organization. They drive a lot of policy decisioning, public-private partnerships, because if you have to scale something beyond your community or your region, you have to rely on partnerships with other public organizations or local non-government organizations or even government organizations if they are inclusive. So I'd say it could be a policy or a technology or a business sector. Regardless, you have a role to play. And quickly also, I'd say if you are a business, if you're a business leader, if you are in a decision making position in a business situation, then it's only going to add to your competitive edge. So we have a lot of data that have repeatedly proven that using ethical AI helps build fair systems, but it also is smart business. So it's going to help you attract more customers. It's going to earn more trust. It's going to earn more transparency with your investors. So if you're a public organization, you may have better brand that represents a large set of the population, which is going to help you stay ahead of your competition. So I'd say there are various ways beyond being an AI technology person to help shape the system today, not in few years.
Excellent. Buva, I think we might have time for just one more question. So how do we hold companies responsible for AI bias, and what real fixes should they put in place?
Um, so I come from the governance background. So to me, this should be a top-down driven approach versus bottom-up, expecting the technology team and the product team to take care of data and AI and ensure it serves our customers and stakeholders. So I'd say top down from the boardroom and the C-suite level and to the top management and to the middle management, establish a governance model day one. Even if you already have an AI system, it is not too late to establish that model to reassess what all you have and then build for the future. So what you do is you in this governance model, you commit to being accountable, transparent, and fair in any decision that it makes. Because only when it can start making negative decisions, you have a point to go back and fix the damage. That way, the trust in the system is being built. And like I said earlier, even though you put governance in place and audit the AI system, data is a very important part. Data is the influence that helps with the final decisioning or the outcome. So it's also very important to ensure that the data, as I mentioned earlier, is governed in a proper way within the AI governance model. So you have AI governance and then the data governance built into it. Then the policy and the organization vision and mission are collective containers inside which this relies, because some of it may be useful for you, some may not be useful for you as a company. So you're able to decide what works and what doesn't work. And then the last thing I have to really say is that today AI is deciding what headlines you see in news also. So it's not about companies or healthcare or finance or hiring. It's you open your morning news, you see voices and articles and news that appears that is customized for you already by AI. So if you are unable to express your opinion publicly or within your organization or within your small team, or not able to think into what's transparent and voice your opinion, then some of these could influence your societal structure, the policy that comes from top down, but also more importantly, it could influence elections, local, national, global, geopolitical. So I'd say start with governance, top down in your organization, big or small, include AI audits, but definitely also use data governance and controls in play within your organizational and policy controls.
Buva, just one last question from our audience members. We have 3 minutes left. Historically, top-down models have been non-transparent. So why wouldn't we want a collaborative approach, especially if you want to change AI to be more diverse?
Yes. What I am advocating for is just expecting the bottom-up approach or the collaborative approach to work, and not expecting the top-down management to take any accountability or transparency. Is not helping it to be the whole culture of the organization or to be scaling across organizations. So we already have a lot of bottom-up as well as middle management support. The technologists and people in the bottom up are already trying to solve for it. The problem comes when the top down management or the government policy is not aligned with what the bottom up teams aspire for. So we need a bottom up approach. Top down needs to support the bottom up aspiration, but more importantly also, along with collaboration inside an organization, we need a federated approach. So you can include diverse data sets that are federated between organizations so that you are able to exchange learnings and eliminate bias together. So bottom up, top down, and federated and collaborative. We need all approaches. We now lack representation in the top down in terms of policy and organizational vision.
Thank you for that, Buva. That is all the time we have today. Thank you so much, Buva Shakti, for joining us today. And to our lovely and valued audience members, thank you so much for being here with us. Next week, we are back online with our next LinkedIn Live, From Entry to Executive, Overcoming the Broken Rung. That's on Tuesday, March 25th at noon. Hope to see you there. Buva, thanks again.
Thank you, Marisol. Thanks everyone for joining. Yeah, ping me with any questions afterwards if you still have some.
Excellent. Have a great one, everyone. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.